Welcome to Hero Biography, where legends and extraordinary individuals are brought to life through inspiring stories that help you learn, grow, and level up every day. Subscribe now so you don't miss out. Before the sun rises over the rugged mountains of ancient Greece, the world is already awake in ways you've never imagined. The air is thick with the scent of pine and salt from the nearby sea, and inside a massive stone palace, built from blocks so enormous later civilizations believe giants must have placed them, a young man opens his eyes. His body is already marked by yesterday's training, bruised, hardened, conditioned for war. He's only 19, yet feared across the entire Greek world. This is Achilles, not the polished, slow-motion legend you've seen in Hollywood, but a real warrior shaped by a brutal, disciplined, and highly structured society. What you're about to see isn't mythology the way you were taught in school. It's something far more grounded and far more intense. Because the truth is, Achilles didn't live in a world of marble statues and perfect temples. He lived in a raw, dangerous system where power, survival, and honor dictated every decision, every relationship, every breath. This reconstruction is built from archaeological discoveries, ancient records, and the Iliad, combined with modern research into Bronze Age warfare and daily life. Every detail you're about to experience is rooted in evidence, not imagination. So if you think you already know Achilles, stay with me, because this version will challenge everything you thought was true. And if you're ready to step into a world where glory mattered more than life itself, make sure you subscribe, hit like, and let's go back over 3,000 years to the real story. Forget everything you think you know about ancient Greece. Erase the image of pristine white marble temples, perfect statues, and philosophers in flowing robes. That version of Greece belongs to a later age. The world Achilles grew up in was older, darker, and far more intense. A Bronze Age society built not on beauty, but on power, control, and survival. This was Mycenaean Greece, around the 13th century BC. A time when kingdoms were not abstract ideas but physical strongholds carved into the landscape. These were places designed to dominate their surroundings, not decorate them. If you stood outside the palace where Achilles was raised, in Phthia, you wouldn't see elegance, you'd feel intimidation. Massive limestone blocks formed towering walls so heavy and precisely stacked that later Greeks believed only Cyclopes, mythical giants, could have built them. These weren't just buildings. They were statements of wealth, of authority, and of the ability to command both labor and fear. Inside, the palace was nothing like the cold ruins we see today. It was alive with color. Walls were painted in deep reds, vivid blues, and bright yellows, scenes of hunts, naval battles, religious ceremonies. At the center stood the Megaron, the Great Hall, where a circular hearth burned constantly, filling the air with warmth and smoke. Wooden columns, painted and polished, held up the roof. This wasn't just a home. It was the nerve center of an entire system. Because in Mycenaean Greece, the palace wasn't simply where a king lived. It was where everything happened. Politics, religion, military strategy, economic control, it all flowed through this one place. Imagine a combination of the White House, the Pentagon, and a corporate headquarters, all merged into a single structure run by a ruling elite that controlled every aspect of life within its territory. We know this not from guesswork, but from something surprisingly modern in its precision: records. Archaeologists have uncovered clay tablets written in a script called Linear B, an early form of Greek. These tablets don't tell stories. They track data. Inventories of bronze weapons, counts of livestock, distributions of grain, allocations of oil for religious rituals, rosters of soldiers. It's the kind of administrative detail you'd expect from a modern logistics system, not a civilization over 3,000 years old. And that changes everything about how we understand Achilles' world. This wasn't chaos. It wasn't a loose collection of heroic individuals wandering through myth. It was a tightly controlled, highly organized society where resources were measured, recorded, and distributed with precision. Power didn't just come from strength. It came from management, from control of supply chains, from the ability to equip and sustain warriors over long campaigns. Achilles didn't grow up on the edges of this system. He was raised at its center. As the son of a king, he belonged to a class that was physically and culturally distinct from the average person. Skeletal remains from Mycenaean elite burials show men who were significantly taller than the general population, often approaching 6 feet in height, at a time when the average man stood closer to 5'5". That difference wasn't genetic luck. It was the result of nutrition, training, and status. The elite ate better, trained earlier, and lived with a single purpose from childhood: to become warriors. From the moment Achilles could walk, his life would have been shaped by expectation. Not comfort, not freedom. Expectation. He was being prepared for a role that demanded physical excellence, mental discipline, and absolute commitment to a system of values that left no room for hesitation. Because in this world, everything revolved around honor. Not honor in the vague, modern sense of being a good person, but a very specific, measurable concept tied directly to reputation. In Mycenaean society, your worth was determined by what others said about you, how you fought, what you conquered, what you owned, and how you were remembered. Wealth mattered, but only as a reflection of power. Land, livestock, weapons, war prizes, these were all visible indicators of status. But above all, there was something more important: recognition. This is where the concept of honor becomes almost transactional. You earned it through action, especially in battle, and you displayed it through tangible rewards. Lose those rewards, and you didn't just lose property. You lost proof of your identity. That's why conflicts in this world escalated so quickly. An insult wasn't just emotional. It was structural. It threatened your position within the entire social hierarchy. For someone like Achilles, whose identity was built entirely on excellence and recognition, any challenge to his honor was a direct attack on his existence. And this system didn't just influence major events, it shaped daily life. Every interaction, every decision, every risk was filtered through the same question: does this increase my honor or diminish it? It's a mindset that can feel extreme today, but in many ways, it's not as distant as it seems. Replace honor with reputation, with brand, with legacy, and suddenly it becomes familiar. Entrepreneurs build companies not just for profit, but for impact. Creators publish work not just to exist, but to be seen, remembered, respected. The scale is different, but the underlying drive, the need to matter, is the same. Achilles lived in a world where that drive wasn't optional. It was everything. And once you understand that, the myths start to look very different. This isn't a story about an invincible hero moving through a stylized, romantic past. It's the story of a young man raised inside one of the most disciplined and demanding systems of the ancient world, shaped from birth to pursue a single goal: to become unforgettable. If you followed Achilles through a single day, what you'd notice first isn't glory, it's pressure. Physical, constant, unavoidable pressure. Before there's any talk of battle, reputation, or destiny, there's the body. Everything in his world begins there. Because being a warrior in Mycenaean Greece wasn't just about courage, it was about endurance at a level most modern people would find hard to imagine. His morning doesn't start with comfort. It starts with fuel. Bread that's dense and dry, made to last. Meat, usually beef or goat, rich in protein but not prepared for pleasure. Olives, cheese, maybe onions. And wine, always mixed with water, not for indulgence but for hydration and calories. This isn't a curated diet plan or a performance lifestyle trend. It's survival math. Modern reconstructions suggest that a warrior operating in full bronze armor could burn upwards of 4,000 calories in a single day. That's closer to what elite endurance athletes consume today than what most people eat in a week of office work. Every bite has a purpose: sustain the body long enough to fight, to march, to carry weight that never lets you forget it's there. And that weight is real. The armor alone transforms the human body into something else entirely. Imagine strapping metal plates across your chest, shoulders, and legs, rigid, unforgiving, pressing into your skin with every movement. Bronze greaves clamp around your calves. A cuirass locks your torso in place. A helmet, reinforced with rows of boar's tusks, sits heavy on your head, limiting your vision and amplifying every sound inside it. Add a shield layered with oxhide and bronze, and suddenly even standing still becomes work. This wasn't symbolic protection. It was functional, engineered to keep you alive in close combat where distance disappeared and survival came down to inches. The spear, typically 6 to 10 feet long, was your primary tool, used to strike before the enemy could reach you. The sword, shorter and sturdier, was your backup for when formations broke and everything turned chaotic. There's no cinematic choreography here. No slow-motion heroics. Just controlled violence, repetition, and the constant risk that one mistake ends everything. Preparing for that moment wasn't dramatic. It was procedural. You didn't become a warrior when battle started. You became one in the routine, strapping on armor piece by piece, checking the fit, adjusting weight distribution, securing your grip on the spear. These actions had to be automatic, because hesitation wasn't just inefficient, it was dangerous. The more familiar your body was with the process, the more mental space you had left for what actually mattered: reading the battlefield, anticipating movement, staying alive. But none of this began in adulthood. By the time Achilles reached 19, this system had already been shaping him for years. The idea that he was trained by a centaur named Chiron might sound like pure mythology, but behind it is something very real and very practical. In elite Mycenaean culture, young nobles were often educated away from the distractions of court life by experienced mentors. These weren't teachers in the modern sense. They were trainers of character, discipline, and skill, men who understood that a future leader needed more than strength. He needed control. Under that kind of mentorship, Achilles wouldn't have just learned how to fight. He would have learned how to think under pressure, how to manage pain, how to observe terrain, how to lead others who might one day depend on his decisions. The curriculum wasn't written, but it was comprehensive. Combat, yes, but also music, medicine, and ethics. Not because these were soft skills, but because in that world they were essential. Take hunting, for example. This wasn't a pastime. It was training disguised as ritual. Hunting wild boar, or even lions, which still roamed parts of Greece at the time, forced young warriors to operate in unpredictable environments. You had to read movement, coordinate with others, make decisions in seconds, and commit fully. There was no reset button, no second attempt. You either adapted or you failed. And failure had consequences. That kind of training built something deeper than physical ability. It built instinct, the ability to act without overthinking, to trust your body and your preparation when the situation turned chaotic. In many ways, it's not unlike what high-level performers experience today, whether in business, sports, or creative work. At a certain point, success depends less on what you know and more on how you execute under pressure. But Achilles wasn't just a fighter. And this is where the image most people have starts to break down. Because in the middle of all this intensity, there was also space for reflection, for culture, for expression. Music, in particular, played a significant role. The lyre wasn't a hobby instrument. It was part of a broader system of storytelling and memory. When Achilles played, he wasn't just passing time. He was engaging with the narratives that defined his world. Songs of past heroes, of victories, of losses. These weren't entertainment. They were reinforcement. A way of reminding every listener what mattered, what lasted, what would be remembered. There's something almost paradoxical about that image. A warrior capable of extreme violence, sitting quietly, playing music, reflecting on stories of others who came before him. But it makes sense when you understand the environment. Because in a world where your legacy depended on being remembered, storytelling wasn't optional. It was the mechanism of immortality. Even medicine, as basic as it was, had its place. Warriors carried knowledge of herbs, of how to treat wounds, how to stop bleeding, how to recover just enough to fight again. The line between survival and death was thin, and any advantage, no matter how small, mattered. This wasn't institutional healthcare. It was practical knowledge passed down, tested in real conditions, refined through necessity. When you step back and look at it all together, what emerges isn't the image of a mythical hero, but of a system, structured, demanding, and deeply intentional. Every element of Achilles' daily life served a purpose. Diet fueled performance. Armor extended survival. Training built instinct. Mentorship shaped judgment. Culture reinforced values. Nothing was random. Nothing was wasted. And that's what makes this version of Achilles so compelling. Not because he was superhuman, but because he was the product of a world that left very little room for anything less than excellence. At the center of Achilles' story isn't a battle, it's a decision. A quiet, almost private moment that defines everything that comes after. In a world where most choices are dictated by survival, politics, or obligation, this one stands apart because it's deeply personal. He is given two paths. One leads back home. A long life, safety, family, obscurity. The other leads forward. A short life, constant danger, and a name that will never be forgotten. And without hesitation, Achilles chooses the second. To a modern audience, that choice can feel irrational, almost reckless. Why trade decades of life for something as intangible as reputation? But in Achilles' world, that question doesn't exist. Because the concept that drives his decision, Kleos, or immortal fame, isn't abstract. It's the closest thing his society has to eternity. There is no clear promise of an afterlife, no structured belief in reward beyond death. What remains is memory, the stories people tell, the songs that survive. If your name is spoken long after you're gone, then in a very real sense, you continue to exist. This is the foundation of the Mycenaean warrior mindset. Life isn't measured in years, it's measured in impact. What did you do that was worth remembering? What did you accomplish that others will repeat, retell, pass down? In that system, a long life without recognition isn't just unremarkable, it's invisible. And invisibility, in a culture built on honor, is a kind of death all its own. Understanding this changes how we interpret everything Achilles does. His intensity, his refusal to accept insults, his relentless pursuit of excellence. It's not ego in the modern sense. It's alignment with a value system that leaves no room for compromise. Honor isn't a feeling, it's a currency. You earn it through action, you display it through recognition, and you protect it at all costs. That's why the conflict between Achilles and Agamemnon isn't just a disagreement, it's a crisis. When Agamemnon takes Briseis, the woman awarded to Achilles as a prize of war, he isn't simply taking a person. He's stripping Achilles of visible proof of his achievements. In modern terms, it would be like publicly erasing someone's accomplishments, undermining their reputation, and questioning their value in front of their peers. For a warrior whose entire identity is built on recognition, that's not just offensive, it's destabilizing. And Achilles' response, to withdraw from battle entirely, only makes sense within this framework. He's not being stubborn for the sake of pride. He's making a calculated decision. If the system no longer recognizes my honor, then I have no reason to participate in it. It's a form of protest, but also a form of control. By stepping away, he forces the entire structure to feel his absence. And when the consequences of that absence begin to unfold, it becomes clear just how central he is to the outcome of the war. But this world isn't defined only by conflict. It's also structured by ritual, moments that give shape to loss, reinforce values, and connect individuals to something larger than themselves. When a warrior dies, the response isn't silence. It's ceremony. The body is prepared with care, washed, anointed, wrapped. Then comes the pyre, the fire that transforms the physical into something symbolic. And after that, the games. Funeral games might sound like celebration, but there's something deeper. Chariot races, athletic contests, displays of strength. These aren't distractions from grief. They're expressions of it. A way of honoring the dead by demonstrating the very qualities they lived for. Strength, skill, competitiveness, excellence. It's a transfer of energy from one generation to the next, a reminder that while the individual is gone, the values endure. The same is true of the banquets that follow campaigns. These gatherings aren't just about food and rest. They're about hierarchy, recognition, and memory. Portions of meat are distributed according to status. Wine is shared in measured proportions. And then the poet begins to sing, not for entertainment, but for preservation. He recounts the deeds of those present, placing them within a larger narrative that stretches back through generations. This is where Cleos becomes real. Not in theory, but in practice. You hear your name spoken. You hear your actions described. You become part of a story that others will carry forward. And in that moment, the line between life and legacy begins to blur. And yet, within all of this structure, this discipline, this intensity, there's still a deeply human side to Achilles that often gets overlooked. The image of him sitting alone, playing the lyre, isn't just poetic contrast. It's insight, because even in a world defined by action, there's space for reflection, for processing, for emotion. He isn't a machine built for war. He's a person navigating a system that demands everything from him. He feels loss. He experiences anger. He questions, even if only briefly, the cost of the path he's chosen. And when he returns to battle after the death of Patroclus, it's not just strategy, it's grief. It's personal. That emotional depth is what makes his story endure. Not the battles, not the victories, but the internal tension between what he is expected to be and what he feels. The awareness that the life he has chosen will be short, and the acceptance of that fact, not because he doesn't value life, but because he values meaning more. And that's where the story reaches beyond its historical context and into something universal. Because while the specifics of Achilles' world are distant, the underlying question isn't. What does it mean to live a meaningful life? Is it measured in time or in impact? In comfort or in recognition? In safety or in the willingness to risk something for the chance to be remembered? Achilles answers that question in a way that is extreme, even by ancient standards. But it's also clear. He chooses a life that matters over a life that lasts. And whether we agree with that choice or not, it forces us to confront our own definitions of success, legacy, and purpose. That's why, more than 3,000 years later, we're still telling his story. Not because he was invincible, but because he made a choice, and stood by it, fully aware of what it would cost. More than 3,000 years separate us from the world Achilles woke up in, yet the distance feels smaller than we expect. Strip away the bronze armor, the palace walls, the rituals of war, and what remains is something familiar, a human being facing a defining choice. Not a perfect hero, not an untouchable legend, but a young man trying to decide what his life should mean. Achilles wasn't remembered because he was invincible. He was remembered because he chose, fully aware of the cost, and lived that choice without compromise. Today, we have technology that can reconstruct faces, rebuild ancient cities, and simulate entire civilizations. We can visualize his armor, his environment, even the way he might have looked standing under that early morning sky. But there's one thing no system, no algorithm, no artificial intelligence can ever truly recreate: the moment of decision. The willingness to move forward when you know exactly what it might cost you. That's not data. That's human. And maybe that's why this story still matters. Because whether you're building a business, creating something from nothing, chasing an idea, or simply trying to figure out your next step, the same question still exists. What are you willing to trade for a life that means something? If this video made you see history differently, or made you think a little deeper about your own path, take a second to like it, share it with someone who would appreciate it, and subscribe to the channel. There's another video waiting for you on the screen right now, and if you made it this far, it was chosen for a reason.